How many hats do you find yourself wearing from time to time, from day to day in your ministry roles? If you're like me, sometimes I find myself wearing one hat, and then I wear another hat, and then I'm wearing another hat. If you've been in ministry for any time, you probably have found yourself wearing a bunch of different hats. And you know, wearing hats can be a good thing. It can be a necessary thing. Sometimes it can be a temporary thing, but sometimes we wear a bunch of different hats because it's a lack of leadership development thing. Well, in today's podcast, I want to walk us through 5 questions that we can all ask ourselves so we can avoid what I call the ministry hat hair. Hey, everyone. My name is Denz. I serve as the lead pastor at Souls Church in Minnesota, and I serve on the leadership team of Harvest Network, a network of ministers that are passionate and devoted to doing life together for life-giving ministry. Well, in today's podcast, everybody, I want to take a few minutes to continue to talk about the power of leadership development. And today I'm talking about how to avoid ministry hat hair. That's right. You see, ministry hat hair is when we're wearing a bunch of different hats, maybe way too much of the time. And we're finding ourselves maybe not ministering our very, very best. You know, in the summer of 2022, I had just returned from the annual assembly of Harvest Network. And we had just learned about the power of multiplication. And I'll never forget coming back to Minnesota and sitting with my leadership team, and we were challenged to assess our team. And what we did is we got ourselves all together, and we began to write out literally every single ministry team that we have in our church. We got it to the T, every single ministry team that we had, from coffee to outreach, to grounds, to cleaning, to worship, to production, you name it. We named every ministry team, and then we listed every person on our team that was leading those teams. Here was our result. We found that we had 34 ministry teams operating and 12 people leading it. What was our takeaway? We're all wearing way too many hats, stretching ourselves way too thin. If you will, we were getting a lot of ministry hat hair happening. We had everything going on, and we found out, again, we were just wearing too many hats. Now, let me pause for a moment, because Jesus did say that when we're faithful with the little God's given us, He will make us ruler over much. In other words, when you're faithful with what God has put in your hand right away, God will give you more opportunity to, if you will, wear more hats. But I believe also Jesus was a master developer and a master discipler in His leadership style. You know, Jesus, He did wear many hats many times, but He also shared those hats with His disciples. He trained them up so not only would He be wearing many hats all the time, but that He would raise up others so they could wear the ministry hats and make an impact in their world. And think about this. The Bible says Jesus is the head. We are His body. It is good to reflect the head and be His body. And it is good to wear a lot of, if you will, different ministry hats and put on the hat that you need at the moment to reflect our head, Jesus Christ, as our number one leader. But while Jesus wore many hats, He also trained and discipled and developed others to wear hats as well. And here's the thing, the more God has given us to wear, maybe the more hats God has given us to wear as pastors, teachers, ministry leaders, overseers, you name it, parachurch leaders, whatever area of ministry God has you in, the more God has given you to wear, that means the more opportunity He's given you to develop in others to wear. You see, I can't develop and give away these hats that are in my possession if I don't have them. But when I have them, that now is an opportunity for me to give this hat away to someone. For me to take this hat, this role, and give it away. You see, God has not called us to wear a bunch of ministry hats and not share those hats with others. God has called us as leaders to raise up others to wear some ministry hats so we don't get a bunch of ministry hat hair going on. You know, the Apostle Paul was a gifted man of God. He wore a lot of hats in his day, but he also gave us a powerful challenge in 2 Timothy chapter 2. Verse 2 says this, "The things that you've heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others." Here's a paraphrase version. You've heard me say things in the presence of others, but now entrust the hats that you wear in ministry to other reliable, qualified, one version says faithful people who can wear those hats also. It's so important to share the ministry hats so we don't get ministry hat hair. So as we dug into the weeds of the many hats we were wearing on our team, we began to ask ourselves 5 questions. 5 questions, and here they are. Number 1, we asked ourselves, what hat am I wearing that someone else could wear better someday? That was a great question for us to ask ourselves. What hat am I wearing that would look better on somebody else because of their grace, their gifts, their callings, their passions, their vision, you name it. Like, what hat am I wearing somebody else could wear better someday? And then we began to write down names of hats we were wearing and people that maybe could wear those hats better. The second question we asked ourselves was this: why do I wear many hats? Number 1, is it because of ego? Number 2, was it because of lack of trust? Number 3, is it because of a lack of development? You know, the second question was really a motive question. Like, why am I wearing these different hats? And really, when we dug down into it, sometimes if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes it's our ego. We feel good about ourselves when we got all these hats we're wearing. Sometimes it's lack of trust. We don't trust that somebody else will wear that hat faithfully or better, or they're going to hit the deadline, so we just keep putting on ministry hats. But sometimes we realized it was a lack of development. We had not developed someone else to wear these hats that we were wearing. And we got so used to wearing so many hats, we were so used to ministry hat hair, we weren't developing others to wear it as well. And so we would secondly just look at our motives. Why do I wear so many hats? The third question we asked ourselves was this: is the process and steps to wearing hats clear and compelling? Let me say it this way. If somebody were to wear one of the hats that I wear in ministry, is it clear and is it compelling to them? Do they know what it's called, what it's about? And is it compelling? Have I cast a compelling vision, as Pastor Dale Sisson has been talking about to us in his podcast about leadership vision casting? And we need to do that. Sometimes, you know, a hat don't look too attractive. You know, maybe it's like looks boring and limp and just sitting there. But if you can add vision and clarity to it, maybe, just maybe, somebody else will see that and pick up and want to do it. And here's what we got to do. We got to make sure the hats we're wearing, there's clarity around them, and it's compelling for others to want to pick up that hat and wear it. Fourth question we asked ourselves is, are the qualifications for wearing one of my ministry hats known to others? In other words, are we talking about the different opportunities? Are we dripping before we drop a big idea. We constantly dripping ideas, dripping vision, dripping about all these ministry hats that are there for people to jump into and run with. You know, it is so important for us to be sure that the qualifications are known to others and that we make it clear. Here is what is needed. Here is what the win looks like. When you wear this ministry hat, here's what we're going for. And what we did on our team, we went back to the drawing board and we began to look through all these questions, especially these first 4, and we just began to whittle it down and make sure that the hats we were wearing were effective, were clear and compelling. And then last but not least, we asked ourselves this. 5th, what ministry hats are we wearing right now that we need to put on the shelf? We need to take and set aside. And we began to slowly fade away or shelf or pause some ministry responsibilities that we were just not needing to wear the hat anymore. And if you will walk through those 5 questions with yourself, with your team, I truly do believe that you can begin to avoid the ministry hat hair that we all can find ourselves doing from time to time. So what can you do to avoid ministry hat hair? Here's what I would say. Number 1, get with your team and begin to assess what hats you are all wearing. Literally list them out on a big Post-it note board. Number 2, walk through those 5 questions I walked you through today and begin to honestly go through those as a team. So number 3, lastly, you can adjust the hats one day at a time. You know, getting rid of ministry hat hair doesn't happen always in a day. It happens day by day. I want to encourage you. Remember, next time you put your ministry hat on, remember, we're all called to be like the head. That's Jesus. And even though he wore many hats, he made a big difference. He was constantly depositing into others and handing off ministry hats to others to wear. And that is what we all need to reflect. When you do this, I believe that you and I, as leaders in our generation, we will defeat the ministry hat hair syndrome. And we will focus on doing what we are called to do, and that is to reflect Jesus, lead like Jesus, and develop others like Jesus. Well, hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining me for the short podcast. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend and follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook so we can keep you posted when future episodes come out each week. And until next time, thank you for investing in your leadership here at the Harvest Network. God bless.